During the execution of our application, PHP allows us to store information regarding our interaction with the user in variables. However, the information stored in those variables goes away when the application terminates. We need to find a long-term mechanism to store the information about our user interaction. Now, we could use file storage as a solution. However, file storage is slow, and unless you're very disciplined as a developer, it is unorganized. Enter the database. The database is specifically designed to provide organized, high-speed data storage and retrieval. In the LAMP stack, we typically work with MySQL. MariaDB is a branch off the development tree for MySQL and is binary compatible with MySQL. Then there's SQL Server and DB2, Postgres. There's a wide variety of different database systems that are available for our use. But again, typically in the LAMP stack, we'll be talking about either MySQL, or MariaDB. In any case, whatever database system you're using, PHP provides an easy-to-use abstraction layer, an interface to those databases, so that we can focus on the functionality of our application rather than on the details of communicating with the database. So what is a database? Well, a database is just a container of structured data that's organized for fast retrieval. That's the key. A database is all about giving us the data that we ask for as quickly as possible. A database is organized in tables. The tables are organized in columns. The columns organize the individual data fields, and a row within a table represents an instance of related data. As an example, we have a movies table that organizes information about movies. An instance of a movie is a row in the table. The table is defined as having an ID field, a movie title field, an actor's field, a director's field, a year field, and a rating field. When we ask the database to give us an instance, to give us a row from this table, what we receive in return is the data associated with one movie. So how do I ask the database for this data? There are 4 basic commands for interacting with any relational database: select, update, insert, and delete. If you know these 4 commands, you can generally successfully interact with a database. Select retrieves data from a table and has a syntax for doing that. Update changes data that exists in a table. Insert inserts a new set of values in the table. And delete removes some data from the table. But before we can send commands to the database, we have to somehow connect and authenticate ourselves with the database. So the first step is that the application must have a user account on the database so that it can establish that connection. A user account is simply just a username and a password on the database server itself. Once we have that and we know the server that we want to connect to, creating the connection is as simple as executing a function call. Much like reading or writing to a file, when we call the connection function for whichever database system we're connecting to, we're returned a connection object, a handle to that connection that we need to save in a variable so that we can use it when sending commands to the database system. Once the connection is established, we can send SQL commands using that database connection handle. And again, as developers, we should maintain our focus on the functionality of the application rather than on the details of the interaction with the database. In maintaining our focus on the application functionality, we can use any one of the many PHP libraries that support database interaction. These libraries provide a layer of abstraction so that we can focus on developing functionality for the application rather than on the detailed plumbing required to communicate with the database.